Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. And the waifu has arrived. Bride Souka. And as you can see, you know, I kind of Spartan myself up with where all my actual money went today. The brand new suit that I can wear forever and ever and ever. But I figured because I'm going to wear it to a few weddings, it would make sense that I would wear it when I summon for my bride waifu. So, she kind of brought me the luck. Well, the suit brought me 5-star luck. I had 12 5 stars out of my 200 pity run. Spoiler alert. So it definitely brought a lot of 5 stars. But Souka is unfortunately only 108. Only 108? Which she's a support unit, so I mean, like, going for dupes on her isn't really necessary. Her actual trait isn't that amazing to require dupes anyways. So, but let's go over it real fast. So she is magic, she is wind, and she uses a hammer. So I don't know of too many units that use a wind hammer, so I had to make one. She's on Gods of Destiny, Wholehearted Devotion, World of Fantasy. Her ult is an AoE that lowers enemies' defense for 2 turns, so that's nice. And then 600% for the EX ult. Her first skill. So this is where, you know, the whole contention was during the translations earlier today. So this skill reads, changes all new souls added to hand to greens for 1 turn, and then increases green damage by 25% for 2 turns. So what this means is that you use this skill turn 2, right? And you send whatever you have on turn 2. Could be oranges, could be blues, could be greens, whatever. The next turn, turn 3, all of those will be greens. Unless they are an alt, of which it will be an alt and 5 greens, or 2 alts and 4 greens, but it will be greens. And then it's done. And so you can essentially play your orbs for the future. So if you have a really good hand of stuff and you know it's going to get you an alt next turn, or you've just used an alt and you want points back, you can use the skill, 40 points, and you can guarantee that your next hand will not be trash. It could be any of the units, right? It could be 3 Shunas and 2 Soukas and 1 hero, or, you know, 6 Shunas if, you know, RNG likes you. But it's guaranteed to be 6 green orbs, unless there's an alt coming in. It does not change the alt, which is kind of what I was hoping for. Sadly, it does not. And it does not do anything on the turn that you use it, except for buff green damage. So that's why the green damage lasts for 2 turns. It's for the turn that you use the skill, and the follow-up turn that actually is all of the greens, right? So that's why it's 2 versus this thing for 1. So it's an interesting skill, and it does allow you to, you know, big brain yourself into the future. It will take some playing around to get used to, though. Sometimes it's good to use, sometimes maybe not so good to use, especially on a team that doesn't reset, that doesn't raise cap, that doesn't give you any extra points when you use the protector. So it's a strategic usage kind of thing. But it can work on pretty much any team that runs greens. So Dark Anniversary team, Space 3.0, this team, what's another? World of Fantasy, you could bring her on there. I mean, it's kind of redundant because Frey is already pretty much taking care of your Orb RNG, but any green team, you can bring her, just like you can bring Traya, which would be good because her second skill increases everybody's attack by 20% for 1 turn. And if you have an additional unit that is either Gods of Destiny or World of Fantasy, you get an extra 5%, which means that she already counts. So you bring her on the team, it's actually a base of 25%. And there's no way around it because she's on the team, right? So if you bring her and Traya, it's 30%. Now, because Souka is on both Gods of Destiny and World of Fantasy, what I was hoping is that by having both categories, it would count twice on this skill. And it does not. So regardless of how many categories, if you have both, if you have one, you will only get an extra 5% per character. So in order to get the maximum of 45%, you would need your entire team to be Gods of Destiny World of Fantasy characters. Which isn't a bad thing, right? 20% across the board for 25 points is, well, 25. 25% attack for 25 cost, bare minimum, is pretty good, right? It's not 55 costs for 40% or 45%. It's low for a low cost team. I like it, and it only gets stronger. It's not restricted on who you can use it on. It's just restricted in the ceiling of the potential support, which, you know, is okay. I'm more okay with that than being like only Goddess of Destiny or World of Fantasy characters 20% attack. That would have been a much worse skill. So her Valor trait, she seals magic skills, which is, you know, rewind, orb changing. It's the same skill, same Valor trait as EX Rimuru, as Space Yuki. It's a really good Valor trait for, you know, making sure people cannot do what they want on their turns in Valor Cup, which Ranked Valor Cup just started. And then her actual trait, when you send a 6-com of greens, you get extra crit damage, which is cool and all, but not really looking for her to do the most damage. We're looking for Shuna. So there's that. Once you get up to 120, you get an extra 20% on the ult. Cool. Don't really recommend that for people. And then she gets extra crit damage with Shuna on the team, and she buffs other teams, other units based on magic attack units. So overall, I like her second skill being unconditional apply to everybody, and then the ceiling gets higher. And then this greens or green skill is interesting. Very interesting. Can use on a lot of green focused teams, and you can just eliminate orb RNG. And I mean, in theory, we tried it on stream, but you could bring her with Dark Veldora and keep resetting the cost of the skill and just almost always guarantee that you're gonna get a full hand of greens next turn, and the next turn, and the next turn. So, you know, it can work like that on paper. Now, realistically, will you have the points? I don't know. Maybe you should bring Isis for that to, you know, buff the greens and everything. So it can work. Do I think she's worth summoning for as an unbiased, not completely obsessed with Souka kind of person? I don't really think so. I think that, you know, the free-to-play Triya is already really good for taking care of most of your green orbs, right? Because she's got the whole swap out and everything and the special convert. I think she's good. Guaranteeing yourself the orb RNG, I mean, I didn't really have an issue with that with the team before she came out, because if you have Shuna, you can just, most of the time, steal your way into a 6-card send, and that's pretty much what you want to do, because she is the DPS. So she is very interesting. Being an AoE support, we knew she was going to be support. I had no qualms about her being a support. But honestly, like, if you don't have Shuna, if you don't have Mirren, I can't really recommend summoning for Souka, because while she can fit on other teams, I feel like you're going to be kind of like forcing yourself to do so rather than making your team as optimized as possible. Because like I said, you're not going to put her with World of Fantasy Frey, because she's already doing all of the orb changing for you, and, you know, Fantasy Milim already gives herself an attack buff, right? She doesn't need this, because it's not going to stack together. You could put her on, like, Light 2.0, but Light Xion also has her own attack buff, so that's redundant as well. Even the Dark 2.0 team, you know, Anniversary Milim, she only has a 15% buff, personal attack buff, so, I mean, it would override that. But for an extra 10%, you're going to swap an entire unit instead of bringing maybe like Dark Valentine or Raphael to really bump up your damage. I don't really know if that's such a great idea. I like these two skills, I really do, but I think they're better suited for the team as it is now, not as a worthy substitution for you to throw 3 or 4 multis on, get shafted, be upset, and then, you know, not have that crystal count for the next banner, who could be really good for a lot of teams, or the next meta in a month or so. So I would very much caution players against summoning for this Souka, unless they really have the other 2 meta units right now. Otherwise, I think you can get away with other support units who can almost do the same thing, except for, you know, this skill, but, you know, orb changers aplenty, right? So that's my own personal opinion. I love Souka, so I'm pretty biased. That's why I went to pity. I could have stopped at 5 multis and said we're out, but I love Souka, so we went for Souka. But, you know, that's my own opinion. I will begin testing her out tomorrow during the day. when I have time between all my meetings and stuff. So her showcase will probably come out on Tuesday. So stay tuned for that, but hopefully this gives you a good idea of what she does, and at least you can at least understand how her skills work. But let me know what your thoughts are on the Souka. Do you like her? Do you wish she was different? What would you change about her kit? And if you summoned, how did your summons go? So let me know that in the comments. Initial grade for Souka, I would, without fully testing her and everything, I'd give her a 7. A solid 7, and that will fluctuate depending on the next couple days. But that's it for me. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.